Welcome to Volume 2 of Christian Symbols on Patristix. This time we're going to look at a few more variations of the cross. We're going to look at some symbols that predate Christianity and were adopted by the Church, including the fascinating and intriguing Sator Square. With the cross being the most universally recognizable symbol of Christianity, it is no surprise that there are so many variants and that we are opening this episode with crosses again. The first one I want to mention is the Greek cross. All of the arms of the Greek cross are the same length. It looks basically like a plus symbol. You will see the Greek cross in Orthodox iconography, art, and vestments, and pretty much everywhere in any Orthodox church on earth. It has been used widely by Christians since at least the 4th century. A variant of the Greek cross worn as jewelry has the interlocking Greek words phos and zoe, light and life. Variations of this cross have been worn by Christians, especially in Greece, since at least the 6th century. The patriarchal cross has 2 bars. It is an old Byzantine symbol but is now used in many countries across Europe in flags and in coats of arms. It eventually in the later Middle Ages became a symbol of quality and was used to mark foods that were of a certain good quality. Today one of the easiest places to find it is in the very center of an Oreo cookie. Another cross with arms of equal length is St. John's cross. Also known as the Maltese cross, it is recognizable in a lot of insignia from the country of Malta. It dates back to around the 6th century, but is most commonly recognized as being the cross used by the Knights of St. John in the Middle Ages. These were knights whose focus was on hospitality or medical help. The cross is still used by them today, but they are more commonly known as the St. John Ambulance Service. The cross has 8 points. These 8 points signify eternity. If you want to know why the 8 points signify eternity, watch our other video on why we worship on Sundays, because the eternity connection isn't related to the numeral 8. Another cross named after a saint is the cross of St. Peter. It is an inverted cross, it is not an inverted crucifix. Now this cross in the 19th century was sort of stolen and used for cultic and anti-Christian purposes, but it is at its core and origin a Christian symbol, a sign of humility and of St. Peter. Peter was condemned to be crucified. Not wanting to die in the same way as Jesus because he didn't feel worthy, he asked to be crucified upside down. This cross can still be seen used in its Christian context in some elements of Roman Catholicism to this day. Peter's brother Andrew also has a cross. The cross of St. Andrew is most easily recognizable from the flag of Scotland, where Andrew is the patron saint, and where St. Andrew's Day is a very big deal. Andrew also was crucified, and he was crucified on a cross that resembles an X. It is used by many countries and cities in their official coats of arms, including Burgundy, Florida, Amsterdam, amongst many others. Another cross named after one of the 12 apostles is the cross of St. Thomas. This cross can be found in different forms in India, where Thomas started the church in the 1st century, and where it has remained to this day in one of the oldest Christian communities on earth. There are several variations of the Thomas cross, but what they all share in common is the presence of the lotus flower. The lotus flower was and is an important part of many of the local Indian religions, and so it is expected that Christian Indians brought the lotus flower to Christ. The buds on the cross also have the representation of the tree of life, or the cross. Moving on from crosses but remaining with flowers, we have the Fleur De Lis. Now the Fleur De Lis is most commonly known in France as part of French symbolism and heraldry, but today it can also be seen signifying cities, countries, and sports teams around the world. It is, however, at its origin a Christian symbol. The 3 separate petals interlocked with a single band represents the Holy Trinity, separate but undivided. This symbol can be seen in many old Christian churches, but is most famous now for its secular uses. Up till now we've been talking about Christian symbols that have been brought into the world by Christianity, but there are many symbols and practices that have been brought in from religions before Christianity into our faith. Christianity doesn't claim to be just another religion, it claims to be the fulfillment of all religion. So we don't throw away the past, we take the past to Christ. Symbols that were a part of us were brought in to the church, just like we come into the church. One of the most famous pagan symbols adopted by Christianity is the Triquetra. Most famous for its Celtic roots, it can also be found in ancient Persia, as well as far north, being used by the Vikings long before Christianity came on the scene. It is a Christian symbol for the Holy Trinity, found across the British Isles, especially all through the Book of Kells, a spectacular 9th century gospel book that is utterly amazing and you should spend time looking through it online, and on many stone crosses across Britain. Today it has been adopted by neo-pagan groups, but though it was used by pagans before Christianity, we can only guess and speculate as to why. We do not have the original meanings, they have been lost. What we do have is the Christian use of it, and we see it as a symbol of the Holy Trinity. Another ancient symbol that became a strong symbol of Christianity is the Ankh. Now, the Ankh is an ancient Egyptian symbol. It predates Christ by centuries and can be seen in hieroglyphs all through the pyramids, and it will be very familiar to you if you're in any way interested in ancient Egypt. The Ankh was a symbol for life. So when Egyptians encountered Christ in the Christian faith, the Egyptian Christians, or the Coptic Christians, quickly took this symbol from their cultural heritage and brought it into the church. It looks a lot like a cross. It already represented life, and now it was able to represent life fully. The symbol was completed in that it represented the resurrection of Christ and eternity. Today, it isn't used by Coptic Christians as often, but it can still be found in their imagery and iconography, and they still see it as a symbol both of their Christian identity and their Coptic heritage. We're going to finish up on the Sator Square. This is something very cool and fascinating, and that I really enjoyed discovering when I did. The Sator Square is basically a Latin palindrome. It is 5 separate words that can be read forwards and backwards exactly the same. When put into a square, no matter which line you look at and in which direction you look at it, it will form a word. If you're into movies, the movie Tenet by Christopher Nolan uses every single one of the words in this square throughout the film in some way. It's a fascinating little design concept. And for Christians, it was a covert symbol under persecution to enable them to recognize each other safely. A copy of the Sator Square engraved in a piece of pottery was unearthed in Manchester and is seen as evidence of a Christian presence in England in the 2nd century. Now, the sentence of the Sator Square is rather a pointless one. It roughly translates to something like, "The farmer Arepo uses wheels for work," which sort of means the farmer plows the fields. It's not a useful sentence, but this little block for Christians had an extra and incredible hidden meaning. If you rearrange the letters around the central N, you achieve a perfect cross with the words Pater Noster, Latin for Our Father. This leaves 4 letters in place, Alpha and Omega, above and below the arms of the cross. And as we said in the last video on symbols, Alpha and Omega were letters to signify Jesus Christ. It's incredible. And that's a good place to end this video, remembering who these symbols represent. So next time you see one, say a quick prayer, make the sign of the cross, and remember him. Thank you very much for watching. That was a fun episode. That was volume 2 of Christian Symbols. If you haven't seen volume 1, go for that. If you want volume 3, let us know, but we're probably going to do a volume 3 and 4 and more because there's just a lot and they're all fascinating. They're all really cool. As for what tea I am drinking, it is actually absolutely incredible. I've never tried it before. It is an Australian herbal relaxing tea and contains various Australian herbs, and I have the list because I can't pronounce one of them. So it's lemon myrtle, it's gilangin, aniseed myrtle, native lemongrass, and then it has strawberry gum leaf, and then chamomile, lavender, and dandelion and passion leaves. It's very Aussie, and we're in Australia, by the way, and it's incredible. I really want more of this tea.